Just to give you an idea, if you do ET 500, Economic Times 500, BSC 500 and all that, yeah, some of the companies which are 250 to 500, they're not even $1 billion. Just to give you an idea. They're publicly listed companies. They're not even $1 billion, actually. This is how fast the world is shifting. So what is important? Important is for you to understand, how you need to navigate in this. And either if you're a startup, you need to understand that it's a good idea for you to collaborate, and large corporates are looking to collaborate with you, actually. In fact, they're very happy if you can do something to help change the trajectory of their business, actually. So again, I'm going to read it out for you, actually. So digital disruption heightens something called dual transformation, actually. So you have a trajectory. You're taking your company in a direction, actually. What is dual transformation is that create a parallel model which is currently fetching you 5-10% of the revenue, and then eventually, when everything goes digital, that 10% becomes 90%, and your old model begin to die slowly, actually. And this is called dual transformation. Ensure that you're focused on that, actually, correct? The rising dominance of something called platform. Facebook is a platform. Paytm is a platform. Udaan is a platform. You buy insurance through a platform. Correct? So it's increasingly becoming clear is that people will interact with a platform. And then platform will need a lot of things to interact with you, actually. Correct? Because this disruption will continue to hit you, there is a possibility. So how many of you are following WeWork? All of you? And you are aware about the news happening? I mean, they're trying to raise money, IPO at a $40 billion. The money last they raised at $20 billion. And from $1 billion to $20 billion, only one person kept funding them, actually. Now suddenly people are saying that they're not worth $40 billion, actually. So company which is darling and which talked about everything, basically they're into a real estate and all that. Guess what happens, actually? Suddenly, so rise, and suddenly the people start questioning, actually, that I don't think it's worth $40 billion, actually. Correct? So always you need to be on your toes to ensure that you are reinventing your business model, because it's going to continue to change, actually. Very, very important, actually. And finally, the rise of Decacorn, actually. So those two slides, you see that, they are actually Decacorn, actually. Uber before their listing happened, was at $60 billion they raised the money, actually. Okay. There is Alipay, actually. Correct? Or part of Alibaba, actually. And Tencent. I mean, their last money, Alipay and the entire, the gamut of financial services they're trying to create, raised at $120 billion. They're not even listed in the organization. And when they decide to take that, I'm going to become a bank, they can become, and they're going to handle or take any bank head on, actually. And 10 years back, we didn't even know what Alibaba was and what Alipay was, at least in India, right? Okay? This is how things are changing, actually. I took you through that something happened from 2014. Look at those red bars, actually. These are the average unicorn born in last 4 years, actually, and 5 years. So you'll see that on an average, close to 60 unicorns are born every year. Actually. So let me take you through, because, I wanted to ensure that a lot of people will have interest in in healthcare here. And in tourism, actually, that's why Kerala is known for, actually. If you look at outside, either people come here for the healthcare industry here, primarily Ayurveda, or tourism, because this is one of the beautiful places, actually. I've been out only one day, and I'm really in love with what I saw, actually. Digital health, what it is, actually. Essentially, they are saying is that without you having to meet the doctor, we're going to monitor all your parameters and ensure that we will tell you what's going on with you, and if required, prescribe you what you need to do to change the outcome, actually. Never in the history it has happened. Never in the history has happened, actually. And because I'm supporting one teleclinic closer to my village, actually. There is no doctor. A patient comes, there is only a pharmacist. Doctor gets connected via video. They take all the data gets transported through the software. Doctor looks at it, prescribes the medicine, and I'm from Rishikesh, actually, so the hill region, it's very difficult to get these things, actually. And two people are sitting 200 kilometers away from each other, actually. Never in the history. Otherwise, for someone to get a clinic open, to have a doctor there, I don't think it would have ever happened, actually. That's digital health for you. Now, what digital health can do for a very simple thing is that If you and I pay same amount of insurance, digital health will ensure that we don't. Someone who has a better lifestyle will pay less amount of insurance money compared to someone who has a not so good lifestyle. Correct? So I was talking about tech titan, right? You talked about a lot of things, Amazon, you talked about. Let me tell you a story. I don't know whether you're privy to that. Around 2 weeks or 3 weeks back, an elderly gentleman in US was riding a bike and fell. Apple Watch detected and immediately sent a SOS to the concerned person. In this case, it was his son, because you write in your Apple device who's your emergency number and all that. He immediately alerted the local authorities. They went there. Actually, the person was fallen from the bike. They picked it up. Timely intervention helped. And Apple is into healthcare, in case you don't know. IBM is into healthcare. Their Watson exactly does that. Yeah, Google is into healthcare. And all these things are happening right under their eyes. How many people thought that Apple, IBM, Google will become a healthcare company? Surely not a single hospital thought about it, actually. Now they are thinking. Now they are talking that we need to collaborate with them. So, interestingly, we actually did, the digital maturity quotient, actually, and realized that you'll see the two things. You don't get to hear about them, but tourism, by design, has a very high digital quotient. And you won't even know about it. Oyo is a digital company. They don't own any asset. Airbnb a digital company. They're a tourism company, actually. All the company, including Make My Trip, every related company where you book your flights, actually, is a digital company. And they're a travel and tourism company, actually. Nobody knows you. As long as you're available on your website, somebody sitting in Denmark will come to you, sit with you, and sort out how they're going to book a room with you, actually. Never in the history it has happened. This is how pervasive. You can sit in your house and actually start a tourism company, actually. This is how the entry barrier has been lowered, actually. Compared to that, pharma is still low. While it impacts all the things, pharma is still low, actually. Correct? So the average we looked at index, highest is around 70, 80. The average is around 33%. Pharma is at around 25%, actually. So survey says that, they really lag. There are a lot of pharma, 25% of pharma is into the early stage, 55% is into still, they're adopting digital technologies and all that. 20% is where they're going to look at. We wanted to know what those 20% are, actually, and we looked at these figures. I'm really sorry, actually, I didn't realize. So on top, you have Novartis, actually. They're working with close to 120 companies. We are in discussion with them, actually, and then goes, actually. But interestingly, when we looked at them, actually, Novartis was by far the industry leader, what they are trying to do. And then it goes on, actually. But they are also, surprisingly, majority of them are working with highly matured pharma company. We work with Abbott, so we know there are a lot of things happening. We are talking to Novartis, actually, on various things. And I know that the kind of a thing they are asking us, actually. But they are looking at primarily a little more matured company who are in, would have raised $50 to $100 million, correct? That shows that this industry has to mature, actually. Guess what I want to share with you, any one of you who plays into, the tourism or a healthcare industry in India. There is a great opportunity for you, and I think I'm going to meet some of the folks today when I do when I talk to them, especially the Miramai team, actually. You'll learn from them what a technology can do, actually. You'll get exposed, actually. And I have a feeling that if you really want to make a difference, there is an opportunity for you to start looking at which are those emerging companies, actually, and how to work with them, actually. And if you are associated, investing, or in a way collaborating with them, it's a great idea to pick them young, because you can shape their destiny. You can also shape their requirements and other things. We did a global map, actually, okay? And this is from our website, because this is what we track and all that. 35,000 funded pharma startups are there in the globe, actually. 35,000, actually. And majority of them, actually, are coming from US and China. Okay, and interestingly, you will see that now you begin to see that there is quite a few coming from India and Israel, actually, which is at 6th place. And we have invested close to $2 billion into these things. Yeah, that's the kind of investment that has happened. This is a market map. Again, you can't read it, actually. But essentially what we say is that pharma is into life cycle management, pharma is into patient monitoring, other things. Because there is a reason why pharma needs to be divided, actually. This is what it is, actually. So you'll see that because pharma has a larger gestation period, actually, 7 to 8 years, actually. So majority of companies you will see will fall into the bracket of emerging, actually, and then over a period of time. In fact, I'll not be surprised in next 4 or 5 years, majority of investment and innovation in pharma will come from China, actually. They did that and found out China has the largest amount of funding going into the pharma, the kind of investment they are doing that. And guess, your mobile device will become your ECG device. Your mobile device will also become your testing device. Just put the blood and they're testing it on your mobile. It'll test and give you type 2. So you can actually manage your type 2 diabetic through your mobile devices. And then obviously any wearable devices you use, actually. That's what it is doing is that majority people are focused around prevention. This is a very complex chart, but essentially we did this chart through our, so we have a team of analysts actually who specialize in pharma. And the idea of this chart is that if pharma needs to get digitized, how it's going to look, actually. And the way it's going to look is that pharma has various components, actually. There is a patient monitoring, doctor's interaction. And the good thing is that all of these can be pervasively together, crunch the data and create an insights and all that. So if you go further into that, like for an example, research and development, there are a number of pharma we are working with. They are telling us, give me the companies who can help me through AI on a drug discovery around cancer. Okay, there is another company we were talking to, they were talking about adverse impact, actually. So those of you who don't know the adverse impact, essentially adverse impact is that when you're testing a new drug, what are the chances that it can create an adverse impact on a patient you're testing it? They have reached a level that the amount of data they crunch and come back is say, look, here are the selection of 10 people, and 90% of the time that these 10 people will react very positively to these new drugs and all that. Earlier, people used to do drugs and then they die something. This is the kind of advancement you're talking about in pharma, actually, which needs to be done. Risk and compliance, actually, that's where that entire compliance thing comes in, is that how you're monitoring it. For an example, like, they currently, and we are talking in discussion with number of hospitals, actually, that a lot of death in pharma happens due to human negligence because, a nurse is moving from one station to other station, people are not able to monitor. With IoT devices and with the patient monitoring system, your entire patient monitoring will happen through a robot. And there is a likelihood they're not going to miss the beat in that. Now, what it does is that it's going to automate all the jobs a typically human being as a nurse does that, actually. And that's the impact on you of a digital disruption. There is an interesting thing because we were talking to pharma company, actually. SCP is the healthcare provider, actually. So every pharma company globally is worried about how do we engage with healthcare provider, because healthcare provider are your doctor, hospital, and all that, and they have plethora of knowledge. There's no way to pick up that knowledge and apply into the research and development of the new, the new techniques, new device, and new gene therapies and all that, actually, correct? There is plenty of these. So all these, what we created, these are the companies currently available, actually, and I can see that even I can't read, actually, okay? So give me 2 minutes, I'll be done. So what they are doing is that right from your doctor interaction to your guy who goes to a doctor from a pharma company, they are able to predict all the pattern, actually. Like for an example, they wanted to know, they typically go to doctor, it takes them 90 days before they start recommending the drugs to them, actually. He says, can we shorten it by 30 days? Because the drug is available. Why would you wait for 90 days to start recommending it? What are you waiting for? Other people? Are you waiting for their adverse impact? Are you waiting for what is the prognosis when people are prescribed to that? What if I can make all these things available to a doctor, and instead of waiting for 90 days, if the impact of drug and drug discovery and the drug distribution can happen to a doctor, actually. So this is how smart this world is becoming, actually. And there are startups across the globe who are trying to solve these problems, actually. It's important when all this is happening, what is it you need to do? Either you are running a company, or you're building a company, or you're working for a company, actually. And just read it. I mean, what is declining is a specific set we all grew up with, actually, predictable job. How many of you have heard about RPA, robotic process automation? 2, 3 people. Those you haven't heard, actually, it's called robotic process automation. It's a software robot. Yeah? Essentially, I'll give you a very crude example. How many of you know JCB? Yeah, all of you know that, right? So remember when we used to build houses, we'll start digging the trenches, then put it together. There'll be 10 laborers who will do that. In 2 days, they'll make it happen. Now a JCB comes in 45 minutes to dig everything, and you can get ready, actually. Automated all these things. Consider robotic process automation is a software version of that. And majority of people who want client interaction, BPOs, are using robotic process automation. But guess who is using? It's the client who used to outsource. So today, if you have a 500-seater BPO, you apply RPA, you can bring it down to 150. 350 people will not have a job unless they resurrect themselves, actually. So on the right-hand side, the declining, what it is. What is important is that they still don't know how to automate complex problem solving, actually. Analytical behavior, actually. Multiple, conversation going on, actually. This is something they're working on. So if in case you're looking at what's going to be your career 5 years from now, if you're on the right-hand side, please ensure that you move to your left-hand side, actually, because this is going to impact you, actually. And that's the reason I said its impact on your organization and you, actually. Finally, what are the takeaways? Ensure that you spend time on peripheries, what's happening outside, which can impact you, your job, and your organization, actually. Focus on customer changing behavior. I landed in Kochi. Everywhere I'm traveling, I'm booking an Uber, I'm going there. Earlier, I would have called someone, booked a taxi, traveled around and all that, actually. Everything I need to see in Kochi, I'm not asking my relatives, actually, or my friends in Kochi. I just go there, I get to know somebody has done the survey, nicely done, more authentic, go to Kochi Fort, go to Lulu Mall, eat there, eat at Alibaba 40 Thieves and all that, try these things. Here is a very nice, the Kerala Sadhya you need to there. I don't need to ask you. So surprising, right? Earlier, I would be talking 2 days before, actually. I'm going to Kochu. How do I need to plan, actually? It's changing, guys. And tourism is decimated when it comes to the entire digital thing, actually. Remember, don't get trapped in yesterday's assumption, actually, because this is going to be your downfall, actually. Embrace dual transformation. Continue to do what you're doing because you need to protect your revenue, but bring in those change, which is going to ensure that you kill your previous revenues and move to the next one, actually. And finally, if you don't take any action, you're going to become a victim of RPA, actually. And it's going to happen to you, actually. That's it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.